Okay, never mind. I think that like we could actually go with this frame. It's actually,
Okay,
yeah. Can you just like sit, keep like, yeah, just like,
is that better?
yeah, just like this.
Okay,
This is much
yeah,
better, at least.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, so okay, let me just. Okay, I think we could like everything seems okay right now. Right, I think we could get officially get started right now.
Sounds good.
Yep. So I'm just wondering, so from your perspective, so like have you seen an increase of people getting like kind of like getting the foot pain like during the pandemic period?
Absolutely. So earlier on in the pandemic, we were seeing more of it. Certainly, when all the gyms and everything closed, people started doing working from home, but they also started doing their leisure activities at home. So whether it was Zumba classes or exercising or even stationary bikes, people were doing that barefoot, which really dramatically increases the risk of injuries, be it stress fractures, ankle sprains, and then simple things like stubbing your toe on your desk. All of that has definitely seen an uprise. That's continued now with some of the gyms and stuff opening up and people getting more comfortable being outside. We're seeing a little bit of a decrease in it, but a lot of people certainly are still wanting to stay safe and exercise at home, and therefore increasing the risk of injuries.
I see. So like what are the like the potential and common type of injury of like of foot pain? So
Sure. So the most common thing that we're seeing related to the pandemic, or the most common thing I'm seeing in relation to the pandemic, is stress fractures. And that usually happens from repetitive overuse. So we used to see it in people who would deliver the mail or who would, work at convention centers and walking 30, 40,000 steps a day. Now I'm beginning to see more of it from people who are working from home and who are choosing to exercise primarily barefoot. People would do Zumba classes in the gym with shoes, or they would go on the treadmill at the gym with running shoes. And because they're at home, they feel more comfortable going barefoot. What people don't necessarily realize, though, is the mechanics of your foot doesn't care whether you're at home or in a gym, and they really need the support. So, highly recommend that people start wearing some nice supportive shoes when they're exercising around the house. So, probably the most common thing would be stress fractures, a little bit of flare up of plantar fasciitis, which is that heel and arch pain. Again, primarily going from a lack of supportive shoes. Even people who used to wear, orthotics and good supportive shoes all the time because they're at home going barefoot, they're no longer wearing them and their feet are suffering in relation to that.
I see. So what kind of like protection would you recommend to people working from home to protect their
Sure.
feet?
So the very best thing anybody could do is to wear a nice supportive shoe at home. Whether you get a pair of indoor walking or running shoes would be ideal. I know a lot of people don't like to do that. There are some sandals and slippers which have some structural support. Your average slipper is probably not going to be great. It provides more of a cushion and just kind of some protection from the ground, but no structural support. So you always want a shoe that has a little bit of a heel, a little bit of an arch support, ideally has a back strap, and is giving your foot and ankle some stability.
I see. I see. So can you share like maybe so what is what is the like the case with worse condition that you have seen so far?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
So can you what is the worst case of foot pain you have seen so far?
Oh, in relationship to the pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So I guess the worst case that I've seen is somebody who actually broke their foot, had a fracture of the second and third metatarsal, which is the two long bones in the middle of their foot. And person can't recall any specific injury or anything else like that, but sustained a full significant fracture, had to be in a walking boot for about 6 to 8 weeks after that fracture in order to allow it to heal.
I see. So what would be so what would be some the protection for people who still insist to go barefoot because like it's much more comfortable. So is there anything that they need to
There's
like
not
keep it
much
in
I can
mind?
tell you. If you're going to insist on going barefoot, I would strongly encourage against that. I know I personally like going barefoot as well. However, I know it's not good for me and therefore I don't. There are a lot of really good sandals and slippers that people can get used to. I think getting over that hump of I don't want to do it is probably the best thing. If you're insisting on going barefoot, making sure that you're stretching and warming up prior to exercise and making sure that you're just more vigilant about when you're walking around and how you're doing your mechanics.
I I see. So so what about like I actually I actually have seen an increase of people like even go barefoot outside. So like so what do you think about that? Yeah. So
Yeah, I think we were seeing that trend a few years ago. There were people, there was an increased rise in barefoot running and minimalistic shoes. That trend, for the vast part, has gone away, largely because a lot of people ended up suffering injuries from it. So I haven't seen that very much anymore, thank goodness. Um, Going barefoot outside is not only putting your foot and ankle at risk from biomechanics, but also from the safety of you never know when you're going to step on a piece of glass or a nail or a needle or something. So really, really important not to be going barefoot out and about in the city.
I see. So what about the kids like you know they are also like running around like in the house. So like so like if I'm parents like should I convince like and also to or even get my little one to like to put on some shoe or some sandal in the house.
So kids are little humans, right? Their
Yeah.
mechanics are the same. They do need to be their feet do need to be supported. Of course, when you're looking at a baby and a toddler who's barely walking around, shoes don't make much of a sense. But if you've got, a 7 or 8 year old or a 10-year-old who's going to be out and about running around in the backyard, in sandals, they're going to increase their risk of certainly of sprained ankles and of other injuries. So I really would encourage wearing running shoes for any physical activity. If you're taking your kids to the beach and you want them to wear a pair of sandals or flip-flops, of course, go for it. But if you're going to be walking 3 kilometers to the beach, maybe switch out those shoes. Have them start out with the running shoes and switch out to a sandal when you get to the beach.
I see. So like and also would that be would it be a good idea if I trying to um like probably like relocate like the furnitures at house and trying to clean up the floor more frequently. So like so would that also be a good idea to avoid some injury?
I mean, for sure, the most common thing we see is parents stepping on Legos.
Yeah,
Anecdotally, we see that all the
I have
time,
tried that.
which, hopefully most of the time does not cause any significant injury, but you combine some bad luck into it and you can have a real significant injury. So keeping your floors clean of dust and clutter, but also of, debris is important. About rearranging your furniture, I think that, you got to have your furniture where you want it, but perhaps putting on a nightlight if you're somebody who gets up in the middle of the night many times and you're going to be more likely to stub your toe on the bed or something like that. Having some lights on around is not a bad idea.
I see. So like I because like I have never expect the foot like you know the foot pain would be related to COVID as well like before I came across that article.
Yeah, so we don't really, this pandemic has unearthed all sorts of things that people don't really realize. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I certainly did not expect to see an increase in injuries and in problems. However, it makes sense, when our lives have been uprooted and changed, and we're spending so much time at home, a lot of people don't like wearing shoes at home, and we forget how important that protection is. We are seeing fewer work-related injuries, right? Because fewer people are on the job. But we're seeing more of these home-related injuries. And I think also in this pandemic, people have tried to become more active and get healthier, and started exercising or started gardening. Lots of people gardening in the past 2 years, and doing so without really paying much attention to their feet because they've never had any foot issues. The problem is once you develop a foot issue, it can be hard to recover from that. So what I would suggest is the first sign of any pain or discomfort, get in and see your local podiatrist for some help and some support. We can oftentimes prevent significant injury if we catch things early.
I actually have one more question. So like
Sure.
because it happens to me like all the time. So if so if we step the toe in the house, so what would be the best relief?
I mean, for immediate pain relief, elevation and ice is usually good. Now, if you're noticing some swelling or bruising or discoloration at all, you should certainly go in and see your podiatrist, potentially get an x-ray. If the toe, a lot of times people sustain little fractures of their toes, which they didn't really think it was a fracture. So sometimes you need an x-ray to rule that out, and we can sometimes tape the two toes together, provide some splinting and some dressing. We don't often treat toe fractures surgically, and therefore people think they're not a big deal, but there are certain fractures in the toes that do need to be treated surgically and that are a big deal. So certainly if you're having pain that doesn't get better, particularly if there's swelling or bruising, you should seek some medical attention.
I see, I see. So do you still have something do you still have something to add on like in terms of this topic, or you
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot here, Leslie.
yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So like thank you so much for your advice.
of course, you're very welcome.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course, you take good care, Leslie.
You too. Have a good
Bye
day.
for now.